Some lore before we get into the control verse. Around the time that like 2012 when Good Kid, Mad City came out is when DMX came out with that interview where he's like going ham on Drake. He's like, I hate the way he walks. I hate the way, like, what Kendrick ended up referencing. I'm sorry, it's just so fun. So someone asked Kendrick about that interview, and he says that I guess like some people on the tour bus when he was on tour were like laughing in the front of the bus, and he like goes up there, he's like, "What are y'all laughing about?" And they showed him the interview, and the interviewers were like, "Oh, and like what did you think of it?" And Kendrick was like, "I was just weak. I started laughing." So some more lore around that time. Kendrick was getting recognition, like people were shook from Good Kid, and like he just got a bunch of awards for it. And like I said, OGs were recognizing Kendrick. So, things were good for him. Then he gets on the Big Sean song Control and he drops this infamous verse. So the verse is pretty straightforward for the most part throughout his like multiple verses, he's basically hyping himself up and putting himself on this pedestal, saying like, "I'm here to take over the industry. I'm here to show everybody." The first part he uses the N word a lot, and I just sound goofy saying it, so I'm not gonna say it. So he says, "New men, just new men. Don't get involved, and I ain't rocking no more designer shit. White tees and Nike Cortez. This red Corvette's anonymous." Basically, he's saying like, I'm coming in here as my true authentic self. I'm not trying to be fancy and rocking the designer stuff. I'm usually homeboys with the same men I'm rhyming with, but this is hip hop and the men should know what time it is. Obviously, when I say men, he's saying the N-word. um so he's saying normally like I'm cool with other rappers and the people that I'm in the game with, but it's hip hop and they need to know that like I'm here to steal the show. And that goes for Jermaine Cole, Big Crit, Wale, Pusha T, Meek Mills, ASAP Rocky, Drake, Big Sean, Jay Electron, Tyler, Mac Miller. I got love for you all, but I'm trying to murder you. And so he calls out these rappers like by their names. And so what made this such a big deal is that every other rapper every rapper that he named took it as a compliment in a way. Like they didn't take it in a mean way as if Kendrick was like coming at them. It was like friendly competition. Like that's what rap is. And the guy that I mentioned earlier, What's the Dirt, he does a really good job of like clipping all the interviews of all the rappers, well, most of the rappers, like they were getting interviewed and they were getting asked, like, what did you think of the verse of Kendrick calling you out? And they were all like, oh, it's big respects. Like, and Wale even was like, I call myself the best rapper all the time in my stuff. Like, that's just how the rap game is. And the only person that was butthurt about it was Drake. So the next line he says, trying to make sure your core fans never heard of you. I'm like, manifestation much? Yikes. They don't want to hear not one word, not one more noun or verb from you. Like he literally is telling them, like, I want to make sure I kill them. I bury your career that nobody wants to hear no songs from you. And that's literally what he did to Drake. Like now when people put on Drake, I'm like, oh, like I don't really put on Drake anymore. Like if it's out, if it comes on when I'm out, like I'll dance to it and I'll sing to it. But I don't want to listen, like I don't put on Drake anymore. Or I guess I don't really want to hear anything new from him. My mic died at the end of the other one. Basically, what I was saying is I am not checking for any new Drake. And I didn't really like much of his newer music. Like after probably like Views, maybe Scorpion, I was like, I don't know. It was just too much all at once, oversaturated. I liked the Honestly Nevermind, like the vibes. I did. But I'm like I said, I'm just not checking for him now. Back to the control verse. So at the end, he says, what is competition? I'm trying to raise the bar high. Who trying to jump and get in? You're better off trying to skydive. So he's saying there's no use in trying to go against me. It's easier for you to skydive. And then he goes on to explain like how this crazy ass situation would be easier than going against him. He says, out the exit window of the 5G5s with 5 grand, with your granddad as the pilot, he's drunk as fuck, trying to land with a handful of arthritis and popping prosthetic leg. Like, dang. this is a crazy ass scenario, and he's saying this is better and easier than going against him. Bumping Pac in the cockpit, so the shit that pops in his head is an option of violence. Someone heard the stewardess said that your parachute is a latex condom hooked to a dread. Here, the latex condom, so like when you use a condom, it's you're, getting intimate someone with someone. You're taking it to that level. So if you've chosen to challenge Kendrick and take it to that level, jumping off won't be an option. And like he's going to take the parachute here is in reference to your skills. That your parachute, your skills is going to end up being like a latex condom hooked to a dread. And like you're that's all you're going to be left with. And that's what it's looking like for Drake, who decided to continue to go into this beef. So after the control verse, everybody's like going crazy, and did I already talk about this? Hold on. Okay, no. Sorry. It's cuz I was saying interview a lot. Okay. So yes, after this dropped, like I mentioned before, all the other rappers were like cool with it, and then Drake gets interviewed about it, and he's like going saying how it's not cool, like I don't mess with that. Kendrick said all of that, and he says, quote unquote, those were harsh words. And he's talking about then after like he ends up seeing Kendrick after that verse, and Kendrick was cool with him because again, like Kendrick wasn't saying like to take that personal. Like it's literally battle rap, like literally. But Drake took it to heart. And so also in that year, Kendrick gets named number one MC, and all the rappers that like were named in the control verse and like other rappers were congratulating Kendrick and just being like, yeah, like he deserves it, blah blah blah. Again, he's getting his flowers. And so, Drake is getting a little jealous. And Drake does another interview, and the interviewer asks him like about Kendrick or whatever, and it comes up again, and Drake's like, "I'm not worried about him. Like, when you're trying to be the best in the game, like it's all about consistency, and you don't see consistency with him, but with me, like I'm consistent. Like basically coming at Kendrick saying like he's not consistent. So this you can kind of see like now things are out there, things are getting heated. So then Drake drops Nothing Was the Same. And on Nothing Was the Same, there's a song called Language. And in Language, Drake starts it off by saying, I don't know why they've been lying, but your shit is not that inspiring. And so he's like basically addressing Kendrick because, Kendrick is known to be like a conscious rapper, and he talks about things in his music that really does help people like who are going through that, who have been in the life and been around what Kendrick has experienced. And I can speak from for myself. Like Kendrick's music has literally helped me through some crazy stuff, and like that's why I love him so much. And so, people say that he has inspiring music. And so Drake is trying to say, like, oh, I don't know why they're lying. Like, it's not even that inspiring. Like, come on. Really? Then after um Nothing Was the Same and Language, also in that year, this is all 2013, Kendrick does the BET cipher with most of the TDE rappers. So it was with J Rock, Isaiah Rashad, Absol, and Schoolboy Q. And I'm gonna probably end the series for tonight here because one, it's getting late, and two, I haven't broken down the cipher yet. And I also want to figure out how to add in a video clip if I can, because it's such a good cipher, and there's a part in it that you need to kind of hear the, like I said, sound effects, because Kendrick's really good at using that to convey a message, and it really matters in this cipher. And I think it's just cool. Ciphers are really cool, and it's a big part of hip hop, and so it's just cool to see. So I'm gonna try to figure out how